In 2020, I designed a 117-page expansion for D&D 5th edition. It was just something for me and my friends to play, something to make the game a bit more exciting. And after years of playing, one of my friends said to me, "There's enough here. It could be its own game." Flash forward to 4 long years later, and the summit is finally in view. What if there was more customization? What if you weren't stuck to a single class? What if you could respond? What if you could design spells on the spot? What if there was no maximum life spells on the spot? What if there was a game where you could play anything, be anybody, no limitations, no questions asked? I'm happy to finally say it. Welcome to Utopia. There's an item you've created. I know it. One you vividly thought about your character holding. Something you've designed, a sword, a chess piece, an amulet, a firearm, a potion, something. Whether it be bathed in lore, hungry for the blood of the believers, or a stick tied to a rock that can inexplicably kill gods, it's something that's important and specific to you and your character. I'm going to explain a game where you can use that item. Per the core rules in the book, you can design and craft that item you've been imagining. This is my personal guarantee that your tabletop RPG character can blueprint that item, harvest the materials, and craft it for their next adventure. Or make somebody else craft it, whatever works. If from scratch isn't your jam, it can be something you've seen from a movie, like a lightsaber or the Moonlight Greatsword from Elden Ring. It could be Daedric armor from Skyrim. It could be the literal One Ring. Don't believe me? Follow me. If you want to play this game for yourself, maybe even read along during the video, check the description below. You can grab a copy of the prototype for free. That prototype has some typos, erratas, things like that. If you want to pre-order a final version, you can do so on Kickstarter. Link in the description. The campaign has ended, but late pledges will be accepted for a little longer. If you don't know how to play Utopia TTRPG, want a crash course, or have never played a TTRPG before, check the top right card in the corner for a neat little video all about that. Link in the description and at the end of the video as well. With that in mind, Utopia TTRPG comes with a rule set for customized item crafting. That may sound complicated, but I think it's a lot more approachable than it seems at first glance. Just in case, I'll explain how you can play with it or without it, and I don't mean just by removing the rule set. You can enjoy custom item crafting while your party members choose not to use it. It's a per person thing, and the balance is the same regardless. I'm going to dive into what different types of item templates are and what their most basic functions are. After that, we can go into components, the resources used to craft those items, and after all of that, we'll build some items together. And to top it all off, I'll show you how to make an item that does 6d100 damage per turn. Yeah, 6d100. Imagine rolling a percentile die for damage. Spoiler, you totally can. In Utopia, there are types of items. An item's type will depict what its basic functions are. For instance, there are fast, moderate, and slow weapons. Obviously, these weapons have different speeds and attack rates, but they all share an attack function in common. As well, there is head, chest, hand, and feet armor. Similar idea in a different font. When it comes to crafting, these types will matter quite a bit. Generally speaking, some effects will be cheaper and less resource intensive on a chest plate than they would be on a hat, and vice versa for other effects. Last but not least, there are shields, consumables, and artifacts. Shields have features that kind of sit between weapons and armor. They're equipped and used like weapons, but use effects similar to armor. Consumables and artifacts are somewhat similar in capability, though consumables are designed to be only used once. Potions, explosives, food, things of that nature. Artifacts are the weirdest of the bunch. They're something of a catch-all for items. These little buggers can do anything from autopiloting themselves, carrying things, making more advanced attacks than weapons can, and much, much more. All of these item types act something like templates to get yourself started. If you're looking for a weapon, there's 3 options to pick from. If you're looking for armor, the game will ask you what kind of armor. And if you're looking for something else entirely, consumables and artifacts will have you covered. With all of these in mind, let's talk more specifically about what each one of these different templates can do. When it comes to making an attack, how long the attack will take and how much damage it will deal is heavily dependent on your weapon type. An attack can take anywhere from 1 turn action to your entire turn of 6 turn actions. If we do decide to make a weapon that requires 1 turn action to attack with, we'll go with a fast weapon. 2 turn actions would be a moderate weapon, and 3 or more turn actions will be a slow weapon. And let's be real here, we can't talk about weapons without talking about damage. Fast weapons, unsurprisingly, will naturally do the least damage. The slower it is, the more it'll be able to do. A weapon can technically do any amount of damage at any speed. Our cost will just get egregious very quickly, so let's compare them to each other for reference. Let's put maximum damage on each weapon at common rarity, common being a very affordable rarity for an item. Assuming that we're only putting damage on these items, no bells, no whistles. A fast weapon can deal up to 4d4 damage, a moderate weapon can deal up to 8d4, and a slow weapon that takes 3 turn actions can deal up to 13d4. Side note, not all weapons deal damage in d4s, you can redistribute dice as you please as long as the maximum damage is the same. That means instead of 8d4, we could do something like 4d8. This scaling seems pretty normal, all things considered. However, there's more to take into account here. When you're trying to unalive somebody, they'll generally try to stop you, surprisingly enough. By default, any given creature can react to you 2 times on your turn. With that in mind, consider the following given you have 6 turn actions on each of your turns. With a 3 turn action weapon, your potential enemies can respond every single time you attack. This gives them the opportunity to block or dodge every time, but your increased weapon damage will help outweigh that. With a 2 turn action weapon, you will get a freebie in. Attacking 3 times means that one of your hits will often go unopposed. With a 1 turn action weapon, you'll get 4 free hits in. That sounds like a lot, and it is, but you now have something new to contend with. Defenses. Defenses are a flat value that every creature has, reducing an amount of incoming damage every time they're attacked. If you're dealing 4d4 damage to me 6 times and I have a defense of 8, I'll be negating 8 damage on each swing. I may not be responding most of the time, but you'll be struggling to get significant damage through. There's a lot more at play here than just that. I mean, that's all assuming you're spending your entire turn attacking. No spells, no traveling, just pure sparring. But this is a solid foundation to give context to what you're building. Next up is armor. Armor comes in 5 varieties: shields, head armor, chest armor, hand armor, and feet armor. Funny enough, not all of them are great at granting defenses. Rather, there's a handful of metrics that each type of armor is best at offering. At their most basic, it will be split amongst defense, block rating, and dodge rating. I'll give a quick recap on block rating and dodge rating just in case you haven't heard of them before. When I said a creature can respond to an attack on your turn up to twice, the same rules apply to you. On each turn that isn't yours, you have 2 interrupt actions. You can spend an interrupt action to block an attack or to dodge an attack. Your block rating is a number of d4s that you can roll. Upon doing so, you'll reduce the damage by the amount that you rolled. Example, I attack you, dealing 20 damage. You block, rolling your block rating. You roll a 10, meaning I only get 10 damage through. Dodge rating, on the other hand, is a number of d12s, much bigger, but dodging is an all or nothing endeavor. When you choose to dodge, you'll have to roll equal to the damage or higher, otherwise you take all of the damage. With those fresh in our mind, let's do our common armor comparison. A common shield can offer up to 2 block or 2 dodge dice with a little resource to spare, meaning you could put a small debuff on to squeeze in a 3rd die. Keep in mind with the shield, it's not a passive equipment. It does take up one of your hands to gain the effects. You also can, however, hold 2 shields at once, if you're into that. A chest piece can get you up to 10 defense of any type other than Psyche, or up to 8 Psyche defense. A helmet is the opposite of this, getting up to 10 Psyche defense, but only up to 8 of any other defenses. Hand armor and feet armor are also mirrors of each other. Common gloves can get you up to an additional 2d4 block rating, whereas common boots can get you up to 2d12 dodge. Every single item we've talked about has a plethora of additional options beyond just damage or defense, but this will give us an idea of what they're worth in a meaningful way. With that in mind, we'll have to talk about artifacts and consumables a bit later, as they don't have any one thing that they're generically good at. They will be important though, I promise. For now, there's one more thing I want to talk about before we get into crafting some of our awesome gear. What it takes to acquire these items during play. When it comes to actually acquiring your customized items in-game, there are 2 main methods. Either components or money. Tycooning is a whole video unto itself, so let's take a look at the components option. There are 3 types of components: material components, refinement components, and power components. And just like items, components come in 6 total rarities: crude, common, extraordinary, rare, legendary, and mythical. Simply and only because I love teasing you, there's actually 2 more rarities that haven't been included yet. When you design an item, your item type will have a minimum number of components required. For instance, a slow weapon starts at 3 material components flat, whereas hand armor will start at 1 material component and 2 refinement components. When you start tacking on features to your special item, those features will add to the number of components required. If you decide to make the item sentient, you'll be adding 1 refinement and 1 power component to your crafting recipe. Like I said before, the list of rarities for components is the same as the list of rarities for items. With that in mind, the component rarities you'll need will be the same as the item. Mythical items require mythical components, common items require common components, easy as that. There are a lot of ways to gather components. Most creatures will drop components in the form of hides, scales, bones, things of that nature. As well, you can forage for components. How difficult it is based on what exactly you're looking for. Power components are by far the rarest, material components being the most common. And of course, the higher rarity, the harder they are to get. As long as you have the talent necessary to craft your item and a tool station, you can smash your components together into the item of your dreams. How long does it take? How much will it be worth once you're done? Where's that 6d100 damage we were promised? All right, you got me. Let's craft some items. Oops, I'm interrupting the next part to tell you to subscribe. If you've made it this far, I can confidently say that you'll like the next video about making your own custom species and creatures. Make sure to smack that rainbow-coded subscribe button so you don't miss that. And if you're looking for live gameplay of Utopia, or even if you have any questions, I do a campaign every Monday on Twitch. It's called the Pious Redemption Campaign. It's a lot of fun, and you can influence my character in chat. That wasn't a bad idea. Don't you think that's pretty neat? I think it's pretty neat. Anyways, did you subscribe? Let's throw some of these features together and craft some real items. We're going to make 3 in total. A common set of gloves, a rare cargo drone, and then finally, our special mythical weapon. Okay, here's my idea. Let's make some claws. Essentially, a pair of gloves with sharp knuckles that we can use to turn our punches into slashes. So in order to track how rare our items become as we add new features, we'll use a currency called rarity points. Every feature will add a number of rarity points, or RP, to our weapon. As we reach different thresholds, it'll increase or decrease the item's rarity. For a common item, we'll have a budget of up to 40 RP, which should be more than enough for our purposes. The component cost of hand armor starts at 2 refinement components and 1 material component, so we'll keep track of that as we add more features. The first thing I'd like to add is the Swift feature, 20 RP. Normally, a weaponless attack would require 2 turn actions and deal 1d8 physical damage, plus your power modifier. While wearing these gloves, the Swift feature states that it'll take 1 turn action instead. This has huge connotations, if you remember us talking about this earlier. This will add another refinement component to our item, putting us at 3 total. Since we're on the topic of weaponless attacks, let's tack on the Harsh feature. Now, the Harsh feature is stackable, meaning that we can add it to the item more than once. Since it's 10 RP per stack, we have room to add it 2 more times. Harsh states that our weaponless attacks will do an additional 1d4 damage of any type per stack, but we can redistribute those dice as long as the maximum damage is the same. Since we're getting 2 stacks, we can change 2d4 to 1d8, and just double our weaponless attack damage per attack. Harsh states that it'll be an additional power component and 1 refinement component for any number of stacks. That means that we only pay for the first stack of Harsh. We don't need any more components for the next stack, leaving our current total at 1 material, 4 refinement, and 1 power, and we're right at 40 RP. That means we're done, right? No. Let's take a quick jaunt to every min-maxer's favorite section, the negative effects. These effects will reduce the amount of RP on an item. Let's grab some. Awkward will make the gloves 3 times as bulky for a 15 RP discount. Tethered will prevent us from ever taking them off without destroying them. That's fine. We weren't planning on taking them off anyways, right? It's fine. It's probably fine. That's 25 RP reduced. Since we're now only at 15, we can add 2 more stacks of Harsh. And since we only add components after the first stack, we don't even need to calculate the component costs, meaning we have our final item. Shredtooth Claws, hand armor, 9 slots against your carry capacity. While worn, our weaponless attacks require only 1 turn action and do a total of 3d8 physical damage. And of course, once we put them on, we can't take them off without spending 6 turn actions to destroy them outright. Awesome! Our first common item. Let's move up a couple of tiers. A rare item. I did say before that artifacts are a little bit different in how they work. Let's make an artifact so we can explore that topic. Artifacts don't have an initial component cost like we've talked about. Instead, the number of components they require is based directly on how much RP they end up with. So let's just start tacking on features. I want to make a cargo drone of sorts, so we'll need an item that can hold items and fly them to other places. For a rare item, we have 110 RP to work with, way more wiggle room. Artifacts have activation features which are somewhat separate from their passive features in the following ways. For each activation, we'll choose an activation speed. For example, we'll be taking fast activation 6. This means it'll take 6 turn actions to activate it and we'll multiply the activated features by 3. We only needed to do one thing when we activate it: travel. We'll give it a travel speed of 10. So the way this all works out, the travel feature allows our artifact to travel autonomously with a land travel of 10. It does so when we spend 6 turn actions to activate it. Travel innately costs 10 RP, but we'll multiply it by our activation cost. In our case, that's 3, meaning it'll cost 30 RP. We'll add the command trigger feature as well for 20 RP. This will make it so that we don't have to be touching our drone to maneuver it around. Now we're on to passive features, meaning we won't have to do any more multiplying like that. Next up is the airborne feature for 25 RP. This will make it so our drone can fly instead of crawl, putting us at a total of 75. As it stands, we need to have our hands on our drone to activate it, and we don't really want that. Instead, let's use the remote feature and we'll add 10 total RP to it, putting us at 85. This will make it so we can activate our drone from up to 50 meters away. And all we have to do now is add the cargo portion to the cargo drone. Our final feature will be capacity. For 20 RP, we can give this little guy 10 slots worth of cargo to tote around. That's enough to carry the gloves we made earlier. And for 105 RP, we have our final invention, Cargo Drone, a rare artifact. As long as this drone is within 50 meters of the user, they can spend 6 turn actions to command it to fly to a given location, doing so at 10 meters per second. It can carry up to 10 slots of cargo with it while flying. With 105 rarity points, this artifact will require 4 material components, 2 rare refinement components, and 2 rare power components. Beautiful, look at us go. Okay, fine, I've made you wait long enough. It's Big Bonk time. There's a mechanic I haven't talked about yet since it hasn't been relevant until now. There's a maximum number of features an item can have based on its rarity. Crude items may have a maximum of 10 features, common maxes at 20, extraordinary 30, so on up until mythical with a maximum of 60. Like I said before, there are 2 more rarities, and spoiler, the last one has no maximum. On this weapon we're about to make, we'll have to be careful since we're stacking so much damage on it. When we use a stackable feature multiple times, it does count each time we use a stack of it, so we'll have to play it a bit of a balancing game. A mythical item caps out at 220 rarity points, and we're looking to deal about 6d100 damage per turn. So let's make a 2 turn action weapon that deals 2d100 damage, allowing us to attack 3 times per turn. I will say, you can choose to do 50d4 damage per attack if you want those better averages, but I personally enjoy my big dice. A 2 turn action weapon means we'll be using a moderate weapon block, so let's do that. Of course we want slam, and in order to deal 2d100 damage, we'll need 50 stacks of it. At 5 RP each, this actually throws us up to 250 RP. We'll have to shed a couple of pounds, at least 30, but that won't be too hard here. We have 10 features left on a mythical item, so let's jump back to our negative features again. First stop is inordinate. It'll be 9 times as bulky, taking up a whopping 27 slots of our inventory, but that's fine. We can just make more cargo drones. However, we do have 9 more features left and more downsides that we could take advantage of. But you know what? I think I'm gonna leave that to you. Tell me, what else could we do with this gigantic rock on a stick? Let me know below what you come up with. I really just spent the whole video pointing at this big shiny weapon and then said, you figure it out. I'm a bad person. As of writing this script, the Kickstarter campaign ended just a couple of days ago. That's really cool. Let's see what ended at. Dear God, what? You absolute mad lads raised over $70,000 to turn this silly boy project into a silly boy actual thing. Like a real thing. Like a really real thing. Over the past month, I've heard thousands of new voices from people interested in this game, in its mechanics, in the gameplay. I've been working my butt off to keep up with everybody, responding to every comment, staying active in the Discord, and keeping up with the pings, and ignore that last part. Everything after pings didn't matter. And honestly, what an amazing problem to have. I could not be happier with everything that happened, and boy am I excited to watch where this project goes after everything is done and dusted. For anybody who's curious, once the Kickstarter exclusive copies are shipped out, Utopia ttrpg will be available to purchase standard retail. I'll be doing my best to get it into shelves and into game stores and local shops, but at the absolute least, it'll be available online internationally. It's so cool to have big brains here tearing this game apart and creating such cool stories. You really did make it all possible. And if you'd like to learn more about the game, make sure to check out the playlist on screen. Surprise, surprise, I just keep yapping. Before you go, remember to hit that subscribe button. It'll turn rainbow if you aren't subscribed, and I don't really know if there's a much better reason than that. Go ahead, click it, click it, click the button. Now, if you click the button and you unsubscribe, please re-click it so that you are subscribed. And of course, thanks.